What's up guys, Perry from Rockville here, and today I'm going to show you how to set up your ROCKMIX 8-channel mixer and interface. So as you can see, it comes with the mixer itself. You also get this USB-B to USB-A cable to connect the mixer to your laptop or computer. You also get this DC to USB-A cable if you wanted to power the mixer from a wall outlet. You also get this USB block here so you can plug it into your wall. It also comes with an antenna that you can connect to the mixer to strengthen the signal between the mixer and a Bluetooth device that you can connect. And you also get these rubber feet that you can stick onto the back of your mixer, but this is optional, so you don't have to add these unless you want to. So to power my mixer for right now, I'm actually going to use the DC to USB-A cable here. I'm going to plug the DC end into the back of the mixer, and I'm also going to want to screw in this cap here to keep it nice and secure. Then I'm going to take the USB-A end and plug it into my USB block here. And now I can plug my mixer into any wall outlet, power strip, etc. I'm also going to connect this antenna here to the back of the mixer by plugging it into the Bluetooth port here, and use the cap at the end of the antenna to screw it onto the mixer. Now I'm going to power on my mixer by using the power switch here on the front of the mixer. So here I have my powered speakers that I'm going to be using with my mixer for today. So let's go over how to connect some speakers to the mixer first. As you can see, we have a couple of different outputs we can use. So we have the main left and right output here, and then we also have the left and right control room output. So we included two outputs here for this mixer for different kinds of setups. So for example, if you're a mixing engineer and you wanted to have two sets of speakers to use while you're mixing, you can use the main output for the higher end speakers, and then you can use the control room output for a more moderate set of speakers. Another example we could use is for live sound, so you can use the main outputs here for your main set of speakers that are pointing towards the audience, and then you can also use the control room outputs for the monitors on stage for the musician. And each of these outputs have their own dedicated volume knobs. So if you wanted to use the main output, you're gonna raise the volume of that by using the main mix knob. And then you have the control room volume knob to set the level for the control room output. You can also use the control room volume knob to control the volume coming out of your headphones, which you can use with this headphone jack here on the top. For today, I'm gonna be using the main output here for my speakers. So to set that up, I'm gonna take two mono 1/4" cables, plug one end of both cables into the left and right main output. Then I'm gonna take the other ends and plug them into my speakers. By the way, these are the APM6 speakers from Rockville, which has the left and right inputs on the main speaker. But if you were using two separate powered speakers, you're just gonna take the cable coming from the left output and plug it into the left speaker, and then plug the cable from the right output into the right speaker. But for our setup today, I'm just gonna plug them into the left and right inputs on the back of my main speaker. Again, you'll wanna match the cable plugged into the left output into the left input, and match the cable that's coming from the right output into the right input. Next, you'll wanna raise the main mix knob on the bottom of the mixer, and then make sure that the volume is set on your speakers. Now you'll be able to hear everything coming through the mixer out of your speakers, but we don't have anything plugged in yet. So now let's go over how to set up a microphone. So here I have my dynamic microphone that I'm gonna set up to my mixer, but there's also a phantom power button so we can set up a condenser microphone, which we'll get to right after we set up the dynamic mic. So channel 1 and channel 2 on the mixer have XLR inputs to connect these microphones. So we're gonna be using channel 1 to set up our dynamic mic first. So for that, I need my XLR cable here. I'm gonna take the female end and plug that into my microphone. Then I'm gonna plug the other end into the XLR input on channel 1. So now we have to use the gain knob and the level knob to continue our setup, but first I wanna go over the difference between these two knobs because oftentimes they get confused. So on top we have the gain knob here so we can set up the sensitivity of the microphone, which will affect how the microphone picks up signal. And the level knob sets up the overall volume for the microphone in relation to the mix of everything else plugged into your mixer. So keep in mind these two knobs are interdependent, and if you're experiencing any clipping or distortion, it would be because of these two parameters. You'll know your microphone is clipping or distorting if the peak light on the channel that you're using starts to light up. And if that happens, you can either try lowering the gain for that channel or lowering the volume knob for that channel. So now let's use these parameters to finish setting up our mic. So I'm just gonna raise the gain knob, not all the way, maybe about almost halfway here. And now to set the level for the microphone, I'm gonna raise the level knob, again almost halfway. And to hear the microphone coming through the main mix, I'm gonna make sure that the main mix knob towards the bottom here is raised as well. So now if I talk into the microphone, check 1, 2, you'll be able to hear my voice coming through the speakers. Now if you wanted to set up another microphone, you can follow the same exact steps, but plug your microphone into channel 2 so that you have 2 microphones going at the same time. So like I mentioned, we can also set up a condenser microphone through our mixer. So the setup for that is very similar. I'm gonna take my XLR cable here and plug the female end into my microphone. Then I'm gonna plug the other end into either channel 1 or channel 2. For today, I'm gonna use channel 1. So now to power the condenser microphone, you also want to activate the phantom power here on the mixer, which distributes to both channel 1 and channel 2, so you can set up 2 condenser microphones at the same time. Again, we're going to use the gain knob to set up the sensitivity for the microphone, and the level knob to set up the overall level for the microphone. And don't forget to raise the main mix knob on your mixer also. So now if I talk into my mic, you'll be able to hear my voice, but you also hear some of that feedback coming through, which isn't good. So to fix that, we can use the pad button here, which will lower the signal by 25 dB for more sensitive signals like from a condenser microphone. So I'm gonna press that in right now for channel 1, and now you should be able to hear my voice without that feedback. So because the pad button lowers the signal a little bit, it could compromise how loud you want the microphone to come through your mix. So again, you can always use the gain and the level knob to compensate for that lack of volume. And while doing that, keep an eye out on that peak light for the channel that you're using so that you're not clipping or distorting. Now channel 1 and channel 2 also have a 1/4 inch input, so we can plug in any instruments like a guitar, for example. So to do that, I can take a 1/4 inch instrument cable here, plug one end into my guitar, then plug the other end into the 1/4 inch input of channel 1 or channel 2. Again, we'll use channel 1. So now again, we'll raise the gain knob and the level knob for channel 1. And then we're gonna raise the main mix knob to hear everything coming through. Next, I'm gonna raise the volume on my guitar. And now if I play, you'll be able to hear it coming through. So this is cool because this means we can plug in an instrument like a guitar and a microphone at the same time, so you could either record yourself playing both in real time or connect your instrument and microphone for a live setup. And from here you can use the other controls on the channel that you're using to affect the sound of your microphone or instrument. Now you can also set up stereo instruments like a keyboard or synth by using channels 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. So to do that, I'm gonna take 2 1/4 inch instrument cables, plug one end of both cables into the left and right outputs of my synth. Then I can plug the other ends into either channels 3 and 4 or 5 and 6. So for today, I'm gonna use channels 3 and 4. I'm gonna make sure that my left cable is going into the left channel, which is channel 3, and I'm gonna make sure that the right cable is going into channel 4, or the right channel. Now channels 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 don't have gain knobs, so all we have to do is raise the level knob for channels 3 and 4, and I'll make sure that the main mix knob is raised as well. Next, I'll want to be sure to raise the volume on my synth, and now if I play on my synth, you'll be able to hear it coming through. So now that we've gone over how to connect a microphone or instrument through the mixer, I'm now gonna use the dynamic microphone again to go through the different controls on our channels here. So on channels 1 and 2, we have this compressor knob that doesn't quite act like a traditional compressor. The compressors on this mixer almost act as an additional gain stage, so you can add more gain to your channel. So to demonstrate, I have the microphone here, and if I raise the compressor knob, check 1, 2, check 1, 2, check 1, 2, you definitely hear some more volume coming through on my voice here, and you'll see the compressor light start to light up as soon as it's engaged. Next, we have the 3-band EQ to manipulate the sound of our channels. So the high knob will control all of the high-end frequencies, the mid knob will control all of the mid frequencies, And the low knob will control all of the low end frequencies.
So let's go through all of them right now, starting with the high knob. So this again controls all of the high end frequencies. And if I raise it up, check 1, 2, check 1, 2, you'll start to hear a lot more presence on the channel right now. And I can lower it all the way down, check 1, 2, check 1, 2. Now you don't hear any high end at all. And if we bring it back to the middle, check 1, 2, it's nice and balanced. Next we have the mid knob for the mid frequencies. So if I raise that all the way up, check 1, 2, check 1, 2, you almost hear some more body in the voice. And then I can lower it, check 1, 2, check 1, 2. Now it sounds pretty hollow. And if we bring it back to the middle, check 1, 2, we got the balance. And lastly, we have the low knob to control the low end bass frequencies. So if I raise that all the way up, check 1, 2, check 1, 2, you hear a lot more bass on my voice. Now I can lower it, check 1, 2, check 1, 2. Now you don't hear any of that low end coming through at all. And if I bring it back to the middle, check 1, 2, we got the balanced sound. Next we have the effects knob, which works with the FX send here on top of the mixer. So we can use the effects send to send signal from our mixer out to other devices like different effects units, mixers, powered speakers, etc. So if we have the FX send going out to any other device, we can use the effects knob to control which channel we want sent to that external device. So for example, if I had a powered speaker connected through this effects send and I want the vocals from channel 1 sent out to that powered speaker, I'm gonna raise the effects knob on channel 1, and now you'll be able to hear everything from channel 1 coming out of that powered speaker as well. Next we have the pan knob, so we can control where the signal goes between the left channel and the right channel of our mix. So for example, if I set this all the way to the left, check 1, 2, check 1, 2, you're now hearing my voice coming through the left channel only. And if I pan it all the way to the right, check 1, 2, check 1, 2, now you're only hearing my voice coming through the right channel. And then we can set it back to the middle so that it's coming through both channels. So all of these controls are the exact same on channel 2, and it's channels 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 that are a little different. So on channels 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, you still have the 3-band EQ, you still have the effects knob, but instead of the pan knob on channels 1 and 2, we have the balance knob for channels 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. So for example, if we're using this knob on channels 3 and 4, you're essentially controlling how much each track is more present in the mix. So if I pan this knob to the left, you're making channel 3 or the left channel more present. And if I turn it to the right, you're making channel 4, the right channel, more present. And again, this is the exact same on channels 5 and 6. On channels 5 and 6, we have the USB playback button so that we can hear anything coming through the mixer that's connected to our laptop or computer. And we're gonna touch more on that a bit later. Next to channels 5 and 6, we have the 2-track RCA input and RCA output. So we can use the RCA input to connect anything with an RCA output, like a record player, DVD, CD player, etc. And then we can use the RCA output to send the signal from our mixer out to other devices like an interface. If you're using the RCA input, you'll want to be sure to press down on the 2-track to main button so that this way we can control the volume of anything coming from the RCA input out through the main mix knob. There's also a 2-track to phones button so that this way we can hear anything coming from our RCA input out through our headphones. On top here, we have the 1/4-inch left and right aux input to receive signal from any auxiliary device. And lastly, we have the Bluetooth button so we can pair any smartphone or tablet through Bluetooth and control the overall volume and sound through channels 3 and 4. Now the ROCKMIX 8 has a Bluetooth mode that we can use with channels 3 and 4 so we can pair any smartphone or tablet and have it playing through the mixer and out of our speakers. So to demonstrate, I have my smartphone right here that I'm going to connect through Bluetooth. So to do that, I'm going to activate the Bluetooth button here on my mixer, and you'll know your device is connected when the Bluetooth light stays solid. Once you see the Bluetooth light start to blink, that means it's looking for a device to connect to. So for that, I'm gonna go back to my smartphone and go into the Bluetooth settings. Search for the device that reads ROCKMIX 8 and click on it to pair.
And you'll know your device is connected when the Bluetooth light stays solid. So now to hear the music from my Bluetooth device, I'm gonna raise the level knob for channels 3 and 4, and I'll also want to be sure that the main mix knob is raised as well. And now you should be able to hear everything coming from your Bluetooth device out of your mixer, but just in case you aren't hearing anything, you can try raising and adjusting your level knob. And we also recommend setting the volume on the actual Bluetooth device to about 75%. So now let's go ahead and hear how it sounds. Alright, so now we hear it all coming through. And again, we can use the 3-band EQ to affect the sound, so I can raise the high end. Now it's a lot more present, bring that down. Got the mid. You can take out some of that body, bring it up. Yep. You can use the low knob to affect the bass, so got a lot more bass coming through there. Turn it down. No bass now at all, bring it back. There we go. We also got the balance knob, so we can send it to the left speaker. Yeah. And then we got the right speaker. There you go. And then we can bring it back to the middle. So it's coming from both. Now we can also connect the ROCKMIX 8 to our laptop or computer, so we can use it for playback and use it as an interface to record onto our computer. So for that, I'm gonna take the included USB-B to USB-A cable. I'm gonna connect the USB-B end into the mixer. Then I'm gonna connect the USB-A end into my laptop. Because I'm using a newer laptop, I'm using a USB-C to USB-A converter, so I'm gonna plug my mixer into the USB-A port of that converter. So now that our mixer is receiving power from our computer, I can then go ahead and turn on my mixer. So now to hear everything from my laptop coming through the mixer, I'm gonna go to the sound settings and adjust the input and output settings. So now I'm in the sound settings where I can adjust the input and output device and set it to the appropriate setting so I can use my mixer. So we'll start with the output setting first. You have a list of different devices that you can use for your output. And the device that you're actually gonna look for to use your mixer is this USB audio codec here. So whenever you're looking to switch the input or output device to the mixer, you're gonna be looking for the USB audio codec. So I'm gonna click on USB audio codec. So now I can use the mixer as my output device. Then I'm gonna switch over to the input menu here. And again, you'll see all these different devices we can use. So I'm gonna click on USB audio codec to set my mixer as the input device. So now this way, any microphones or instruments connected to the mixer will come into the laptop, and everything coming from the laptop will come out through the mixer out to our speakers. However, if you do want to hear anything coming from your laptop or computer out through your mixer, you actually want to engage the USB playback mode on channels 5 and 6. If you don't engage this setting, you won't hear anything coming from your computer, like your music, or anything coming from your DAW, like your recording session. So whenever you want to hear anything coming from your laptop that's connected to the mixer, you're gonna press the USB playback button here on the mixer. You'll know it's set when the button is pushed in and the USB playback light springs on. You're also gonna wanna raise the volume knob for channels 5 and 6, and then you'll also wanna raise the main mix knob to hear everything also. So now to test it out, I'm gonna play some music from my laptop so we can hear everything coming through the mixer out of our speakers. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Sounds good too. Now what's also really cool is that we can use the 3-band EQ and the balance knob to affect anything that's playing from our computer out through our mixer. So when using the DAW from your computer with the ROCKMIX 8, we also recommend going into the sound settings of your DAW and making sure that it's set to the appropriate input and output device. So I've got my DAW open, and just like we did for the sound settings of the computer, I went into the sound settings of the DAW I'm using, and I'm gonna wanna look out for the output device here and the input device here. So right now it's not set to the device that we want it set to, which is the USB audio codec. So to change that, I'm just gonna open up the menu here for the output device first. I'm gonna go through the list of devices available, and I'm gonna go to USB audio codec and click on it to set that as my output device. And it actually switched both of them at the same time. So now I don't have to check for the input device, and now we're all ready to go with our mixer. So now if we want to use the mixer to record something onto our computer, we can go ahead and create a new track. From here, it's going to ask what we want to use as the audio input, and we can choose between input 1, input 2, and input 1 and 2. And this actually brings up an interesting point that I want to bring up here. So when we're setting up the input source like we're doing right now, we can either use the mixer in a stereo configuration, which is input 1 and 2 together, or we can use dual mono between input 1 and input 2. So in other words, all of the channels here on your mixer between channels 1 and 6 are summed together as channels 1 and 2. So you won't see channels 1 through 6 separately in your DAW. So this won't work like a traditional multi-track interface. However, everything coming through the mixer will come out through channels 1 and 2 and record everything simultaneously. So for example, if I wanted to record a microphone and a guitar at the same time, here's how I would do it. So I would set the input to 1 and 2 together, again for that stereo configuration. Then I'm just gonna create my track and it will show up on our DAW right here. For my microphone, I'm gonna activate the phantom power to power the condenser mic. And now on both channels, I can raise the gain knob to adjust the sensitivity. Then I can raise the level knob to adjust the level for my mic and my guitar. And I'll also want to raise the main mix knob so that this way everything coming through our mixer will transfer out into our DAW and get recorded. So while we're using the stereo configuration for our recording today, there is one way I can separate the vocals and the guitar. I can go to the pan knob for channel 1 and send it all the way to the left side so that it shows up through the left side of our recording. And I can pan the guitar track to the right side so that it shows up on the right side of our recording. Now I actually want to go through one more thing before we start recording. So right now I have my speakers set up through the main outputs here on my mixer, and because I'm going to be recording vocals with my microphone, everything coming through the mixer is going to come out through the speakers, and that's actually going to be picked up by the microphone, causing a feedback loop, which we don't want. So to fix that, I can use my headphones here, so I can plug them into the phones jack on the top of the mixer. And I'm actually gonna wanna lower the volume on my speakers all the way down so that this way we won't be able to hear everything coming through the speakers while we're recording. And while I have my headphones on, I can raise the phones knob here towards the bottom of the mixer. And now I'll be able to hear everything coming through the mixer and out of my laptop while I'm recording. So now that I've got my microphone and guitar all set up, check 1, 2, you actually see the signal coming through our track here. So the guitar is coming up towards the bottom on the right side, and the vocals are coming in on the top towards the left side. So I'm gonna record a sample for you guys so you can hear how it sounds. So right now you're hearing my voice, and you can see it's coming through the top of the track here through the left channel, and I can play my guitar at the same time, and you see that coming through towards the bottom on the right channel. So we're hearing it together, and it's coming through the same track. And after we stop the recording, you can see the vocals on the top track here and the guitar on the bottom track here. Now say you wanted to record the microphone just by itself, we can create a new track on our DAW, set the input to input 1, and create the track. And now on the mic channel we're using, which is channel 1, I can go to the pan knob and pan it all the way to the left, so that this way all of the signal is going to input 1, which is the left channel. And now if I talk into the microphone, you'll see the signal coming in nice and strong here. And let me record a sample for you guys so we can hear how it sounds. So here we go, check 1, 2, you can hear my voice. You see the track is being recorded here on our DAW, and it's coming in nice and strong. Now you can also set your audio track to input 2 and follow similar steps. So for example, if I created a new track, set it to input 2 and create. And now you'll see that our track is all set up, but in order to see the signal coming through while we're using input 2, we're gonna go to the pan knob for the channel we're using, again, channel 1, and we're gonna pan it all the way to the right. And now you'll see that signal coming in nice and strong on our track here. From there, you can hit record, and now everything will be recording through input 2. And don't forget, you can also use the 3-band EQ to adjust the sound of our microphone or instrument that's plugged in through channel 1 or channel 2. And lastly, when you want to hear back your recording, you'll want to be sure to bring the volume back up on your speakers. Make sure the USB playback is set up on channels 5 and 6, and raise the volume for channels 5 and 6 as well. Now, before we sign off, we just want to go over some troubleshooting points in case any of you run into the following problems. Number 1, if your computer doesn't recognize the interface after you plugged it in, you can try unplugging the interface and waiting about 30 seconds before plugging it back in. If that doesn't work, try restarting your computer, wait about 30 seconds more after the computer is rebooted, then try plugging your interface in. Then you can go into the sound settings of your computer and check to see if the interface shows up in the input and output window. If you experience any feedback while you're recording or performing with your mixer, try lowering the gain and the level knob like we discussed before, but make sure you have a good blend between the two so that the signal is still coming through whichever channel you're using. If you're still hearing the feedback after that, check to make sure that the microphone isn't too close to your speakers, because that can cause a feedback loop to cause the feedback in general. And again, like we mentioned earlier, to avoid the issue of the feedback loop, try lowering the volume on your speakers and try using your headphones while you're recording with your microphone. If you're still experiencing some noise even after all these steps, try checking your cables and making sure that everything's properly connected and that your cables are in the right condition. And lastly, if you're not hearing anything coming out of the mixer, try checking the level and gain knobs to make sure that the signal is coming through. Make sure the cables that you're using between the control output, the main output, or your headphone output is fully connected so that you can actually hear the sound coming through those sources. And if you're still not hearing anything after that, make sure to check the main mix knob if you're using the main output, and the control room / headphone knob if you're using the control room output or the headphone output. So hopefully this showed you guys how easy it is to set up your ROCKMIX 8. But of course, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to our customer support team through phone or email. As always, I'm Perry from Rockville, and we'll see you guys next time.